When you hear the word Pompeii, you probably think of one thing, right? The volcano, the fire, the ash, the tragedy. But we're going to push all of that aside for a little bit, because today we're going to explore what a totally normal day was actually like in this incredible Roman city, long before its last day. So let's step back in time. And this quote it absolutely nails why Pompeii is so special. It's not just another pile of ruins. Because the ash preserved it so perfectly, it's literally a time machine. It gives us this incredible, frozen-in-time snapshot of what everyday Roman life, the messy, loud, vibrant parts, really truly looked like. So that's the big question we're diving into. We're shifting the focus away from how the city died to how it lived. Think of this as your own personal city tour, taking us back almost 2,000 years to see Pompeii at its absolute peak. And any tour of Pompeii has to start right here, at the very heart of it all. The Forum was the city's public and commercial center, the one place where everyone's day, whether you were rich, poor, free, or enslaved, would have crossed paths. Now, don't picture some quiet, dignified plaza. No way. The Forum was a chaotic, noisy, totally vital hub of activity. At any given moment, you'd have priests making sacrifices at the Temple of Jupiter, politicians arguing in the council offices, and merchants yelling, haggling over prices in the market. This was the city's living, breathing heart. And stepping out from the Forum, wow, the sensory overload would have been just incredible. The city had more than 30 bakeries run by people like Terentius Neo and his wife, so the air would have been thick with the smell of fresh bread. And layered on top of that, you'd hear the constant noise of the city's other big industries, like making woolen cloth. It was all happening right there in the open. Okay, so let's move away from the public streets, because behind closed doors, the story of Pompeii gets really different. We start to see a city of really stark, dramatic contrasts, especially when it comes to how people actually lived. I mean, the gap between the rich and the poor was just huge. On one side, you have the elites living in these amazing villas with luxuries like running water, private baths, even heated floors. But for most people, squeezed into these tenements, life was a real struggle. Just imagine a single dark room with no kitchen, no bathroom, paying high rent, and always worried about a fire breaking out. That was the reality for most Pompeians. So what powered this fancy lifestyle for the rich? Well, the answer really lies in this number. Archaeologists figure that somewhere between 10 and 25%, maybe as much as a quarter, of Pompeii's entire population was enslaved. It was their labor that built the villas, served the fancy dinners, and kept the whole economy humming along. You know, that huge social divide was obvious in just about every part of life, but maybe nowhere more clearly than in what and where people ate. But first, we have to talk about the one flavor that pretty much united everybody: garum. This stuff was a super strong, salty, fermented fish sauce, and it was, and I'm not exaggerating, the ketchup of the Roman world. It was a total staple. You'd find it everywhere, adding a savory kick to pretty much everything, from cheap street food to the fanciest feasts. So while garum was everywhere, dining out was not. For the working class and the poor, who usually didn't even have kitchens, these street corner bars were everything. They were these lively, loud spots where you could grab a snack, drink some wine, and maybe get in on an illegal dice game. The wealthy, on the other hand, they dined at home, throwing these massive multi-course feasts that were all about showing off how rich and important they were. And what was on the menu at one of these parties? Archaeologists have found evidence of some unbelievable stuff. We're talking songbirds, sea urchins, all kinds of shellfish, even young pigs were a huge delicacy. And you'd wash it all down with the best wines, grown right there on the fertile slopes of Mount Vesuvius. All right, for the last stop on our tour, we're headed to the grandest stage in the city. This was a place where all of Pompeii came together for a good time, but it was also a place that perfectly reinforced the rigid social rules of their world. And what a stage it was! It's actually kind of mind-blowing to think about. Pompeii had the oldest known stone amphitheater in the entire Roman world. It could hold 20,000 people. That's more than the city's whole population. It just goes to show you how central the games were to life here. But the amphitheater wasn't just a venue. It was basically a map of Pompeian society. Your status decided exactly where you sat. The elites got the best seats right up front, and they even had their own private entrances. Regular male citizens filled up the middle, and way, way up at the top, by an order from the Emperor Augustus himself, that's where the women sat. Where you sat told everybody exactly who you were. So what was the main event everyone was there to see? The gladiators. But these guys weren't just fighters. They were the superstars of their time, for real. They had fan clubs, people scrawled graffiti about them on city walls, and huge amounts of money were gambled on their fights. And these celebrity athletes all had unique fighting styles, kind of like characters in a video game. You had the Rhetariaris, who was super fast and fought with just a net and a trident. And his classic opponent was the Murmillo, this heavily armored tank with a huge shield and a short sword. Seeing those two go at it was the absolute highlight of the games. So we've walked through this incredibly vibrant, complicated, and very, very alive city, a place full of business, faith, family, and spectacle. But as we all know, this entire life was being lived in the shadow of a danger they didn't really understand. Just 17 years before the final eruption, a huge earthquake rocked the region and flattened large parts of the city. We know now that this was a massive warning sign from Vesuvius. But the Pompeians, they were tough. They rebuilt their homes, their shops, their temples, and life just carried on, as loud and as bustling as it had always been. And in the end, the story of Pompeii isn't just about a volcano. It's about the complex, amazing society that it preserved for us. And it leaves us with one final thought, one last question to chew on. If our world, if your city, were suddenly frozen in time today, what would its remains say about us?